Good evening, everybody. I'm Deanna Merzadagon from the Willow Glen Neighborhood Association. I'm the current president, and tonight we're hosting a mayor candidate forum with Supervisor Cindy Chavez and Councilperson Matt Mahan. I'd like to introduce the board to you. We have Brian Yee, who is our treasurer, Mitchell Ehrlich, who is our vice president, Kathleen Almaslino, who is also our vice president. And then we have Pierluigi Oliverio, who is a board member, along with Mary Rafanti-Fox, Helen Hutchings, Leanne Lindenhoff, and Jose Salcido, excuse me, and Maren Sederquist. Tonight, Pierluigi is going to be moderating the candidate forum, and Kathleen will be keeping the time. And I'm going to hand it over to Pierluigi, and he'll explain the format of the forum. And I need to let you guys know that I will be signing off early tonight, so Pierluigi will also be closing the meeting for us. And I really appreciate everybody tuning in and for the candidates to be with us. So there, thank you. Pierluigi, go ahead.
Thanks, Deanna. So candidates, thank you so much for attending. We'll rotate who answers each question first, which I'm sure you're used to. The responses will be 1 minute unless noted differently by the moderator. So the question might have a one-word response, for example. There's no limit on the amount of rebuttals you use. There's no limit there. However, the response to the rebuttal and the rebuttal are limited to 30 seconds. And there's no more than 4 rebuttal responses per question. So you might have 2 rebuttals, 2 responses, but that's the max on that one. If you could just please visibly raise your hand if you wanted to participate in that part. And as mentioned, Kathleen will be our timekeeper, and she will say thank you repeatedly and increasingly louder when your time is up. So as mentioned, tonight in alphabetical order, Supervisor Cindy Chavez, Councilmember Matt Mahan. And for the purposes of this forum, are you both comfortable being addressed by your first name?
Yes, please.
Great. Well, thank you. So we'll start question number 1. Ladies first. Cindy, what are 3 things you cannot do as mayor?
What's that? I'm sorry.
What are 3 things you cannot do as mayor?
You can't address the price of gas. You can't address inflation. And you can't address, there's some issues relative to state law you can't address. I mean, there's any number of things, I guess.
Great. And the reason that was asked, and I got this from the LA mayoral debates, is because when people campaign, they say a lot of different things. And so but not every position has all the power. So,
right.
So Matt?
Yeah, I mean, I think as mayor, you can advocate on any issue, but clearly national defense, Social Security, most features of our education and healthcare system are beyond the purview of a city and a mayor.
Okay. So now, Matt, starting with you, what is the biggest difference between you and your opponent, and why would you be more effective?
I think I'm bringing a very different approach to how we operate in government. I know that San Jose can do better. I am frustrated with the status quo. I am not someone who spent my career in politics. I've been accountable for getting students on grade level as a public school teacher, and then delivering a product to customers as the CEO of 2 technology companies. And I think we need to change the way that we're operating in city government. We need real culture change that focuses on the customer, is more innovative and efficient, and increases our accountability for delivering the outcomes the community most cares about. And that's really what I'm pushing for, is culture change and a different approach, because many of our current approaches are frankly failing despite the fact that we are spending more than ever before.
Cindy?
I think that experience matters. I think all of us who've had a new job knows it takes a little bit of time to learn that job. But the other thing, and probably more important, is that most of my career, whether it's been in public office, in the labor movement, running a nonprofit, has been serving people who are pretty needy, which means that I have to go above and beyond to move the needle to improve lives. As a member of the city council, we became the first city to offer every child under the age of 18 access to health insurance. I doubled the amount of neighborhood park space in downtown San Jose. We built mid-rise housing for the first time, and we were able to do really important things. As a member of the Board of Supervisors, I helped save 2 hospitals, St. Louise and O'Connor, saving 451 beds and 2 emergency rooms. Those are very difficult things to do. And, you know, and I'm not satisfied that government's doing everything it should be doing either. The reason I'm running is to raise the bar, to make sure that—
Okay, thank you.
Oh, sorry, Kathy. Did you, Kathleen, did you show me your hand and I missed it?
Sorry, I'll do that next time, sorry.
You get visual and auditory there.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay, and everyone's good on that topic. We'll go to the next one. No other rebuttal response or any of that? Okay. So starting with Cindy, what is your commitment to regulating recreational use of nitrous oxide, also known as whippets, and navigating for state to regulate?
Yeah, I think actually the state needs to not just regulate it, it needs to ban its recreational use. There's a loophole in the law. And the last time someone tried to do this was in 2019, and it failed in the, I think it was in the professional committee. And I think what that means is that we have to go back at it in a much more aggressive way. And primarily this is being sold at vape shops and tobacco shops. It's not supposed to be used for recreational use. It really is a loophole that needs to be closed. I think that, you know, what I've asked the county to do is the counties now, when they're doing their reviews of the Department of Environmental Services is doing their reviews of vape shops, they're looking to see if the laws are being followed and the rules are being followed. And if they're not, they're going to report them to the state. But they're also going to be writing up a report that demonstrates why we need to end the use of that product. It's just dangerous for kids.
Thank you. Matt?
Thanks. I also strongly support banning recreational use of nitrous oxide. And I think, you know, as mayor, it's going to be important not just to advocate for that ban, but I think our role locally will be around law enforcement and making sure that we are actually going into these shops and making sure that they're no longer, that the product's no longer available. It should not be sold in a store that also sells other inhalants. And so that's something that I strongly believe as a parent of 2 little kids and will certainly fight for.
Okay, thank you. Matt, starting with you, what is your plan for homelessness and what do you think of your opponent's plan?
Thank you. I think that the current approach, which is really my opponent's plan, I mean, my opponent is the architect of our current approach with Measure A, is frankly too slow and too expensive. We're taking on average over 5 years to get a building in the ground. The cost per door is over $850,000 and going up. And I have advocated for what I see as a much more pragmatic and efficient approach, one that leverages new technologies like prefabricated modular units. I think we need a county-wide master plan where we identify how we're going to equitably distribute on government-owned land quick build apartments to transition people indoors. I think that we have a revolving door today, and this will come up under public safety, but at both Valley Med and the county jail. And frankly, I don't think we're doing nearly enough. I think we're failing. In fact, we have the highest unsheltered rate in the country. And I think that we are letting the perfect be the enemy of the good. I think in short, and obviously we'll get into more of the details, but the answer is scale up basic cost-effective shelter and begin requiring that people come indoors. And we're not doing either of those things right now.
Cindy?
Yes, thank you. You know, first of all, we have multiple approaches to addressing homelessness. And of course, we need to get better at all of it. The only thing that Mr. Mahan said that's new is the idea of doing a countywide plan on the equitable distribution, but every other initiative that he's raised is being addressed right now. I think the biggest challenge we have, and we have to really address this, is that we've got to get the city of San Jose moving much faster on permitting housing, because even for our quick build apartments, you can spend 2 years getting permitted and it still takes, you know, anywhere from 9 months to depending on whether or not the quick builds are ready and fabrication, you know, the units are available, as to whether or not they're even going to be faster. So I think the bigger problem is our permitting process in San Jose so that we can get housing built. I think it's very important that we look at permanent solutions, because all of these people that are in temporary housing will need to go somewhere at some point permanently.
So I'll definitely,
go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, look, the data doesn't lie. If you look at the county's approach with Measure A, it's passed 6 years ago, $1 billion bond. It's delivered just over 700 units at a cost of $850,000 a door. When COVID hit, the city had to rapidly respond, building these quick build sites with prefab modular, and in 2 years, got up less than 2 years, 650 units at more like $100,000 a door. So I think we need to act like the house is on fire, which means pulling back funding for this very expensive $1 million a door approach to much more scalable and cost-effective approaches.
Cindy?
Yeah, thank you. You know, first of all, you know, I think it's really, really important that we understand that part of the reason we have a problem is we do not have enough housing. The city of San Jose is in the housing business. The county of Santa Clara wasn't. We leaned in to help the city of San Jose. So it's Measure A doesn't belong to one person, it belongs to our entire community, but that's not the only thing we're doing, including that one of the quick build apartments that you talked about, the county is helping to fund.
So I think philosophically that the problem is that the county's approach is premised on the idea that we have to solve the affordable housing crisis before we can end street homelessness. And that's simply not true. You take New York City, has extremely expensive housing, has a higher rate of homelessness per capita than we do, and has the unsheltered homelessness rate in the single digits. So if you agree with me that ending street homelessness is a moral imperative and must be done as quickly and cost effectively as possible, there are models out there for doing it. I'm all for speeding up permitting, reducing fees, and getting housing in the ground. But if we say that we have to solve affordable housing first, we're never going to end street homelessness.
And just to follow up on that, nobody is saying that. The urgency at which we're moving is intended to get every person we can off the street as quickly as possible. Every person. And the city of San Jose could play a leadership role in that, in part by making it easier for us to do, because whether it's quick build apartments or permanent housing, we still have to go through the same permitting process. The Branham Lane project is going to cost $271,000 a unit for temporary housing. And fine, we should do it. We should do all of it. Oh, sorry, Kathy, I forgot these are 30 seconds.
Yeah, sorry.
Are we out of rebuttals?
So that's the joy of 2 rebuttal, 2 responses. You got deeper on that question and we're having a conversation. So hopefully that this continues to be the most joyous forum you've been to. So I think the next one we start with Cindy. Cindy, what do you do with homeless individuals that refuse shelter and services again and again?
Yeah, I mean, part of the challenge is that there is much that needs to be changed in state law. What we're doing now and what we're investing in nonprofits to do is to try to persuade people to take services. I think Care Court is going to give us an opportunity to get a team around a person, and if they have family, that family around a person, to continue to persuade people. But the most important thing we can do is change state law to make it easier to conserve people who need to be conserved.
And same question, Matt.
So I strongly support adopting Care Court and was very disappointed that our county just deferred. So as LA County and San Francisco County leapt in, embraced Care Court immediately, received hundreds of millions of dollars in state funding to implement it, our county board of supervisors, and on which my opponent sits, decided to defer it for 2 years, just as for 18 years or so, they decided to defer Laura's Law. And I think we've seen a pattern in our county of not wanting to be proactive and push the envelope on addressing severe mental illness. We used to have Agnew's. We need many more inpatient places for people to go. And frankly, when someone is dying on our streets, as 250 people did last year in San Jose alone, we need to implement a little more tough love to get people inside. I have experienced this firsthand with family and friends with addiction and mental illness. And we're not doing people any favors by leaving them out on the streets.
And are we good there? I don't see any rebuttals, so we'll continue. I think
use my rebuttal time. I can't rebut myself.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, so I think we that was for Matt, right? And so now we're to Cindy. No. That was for Cindy. This is for Matt. Okay, so Matt, in a 2-year period, there were 22,265 incidents involving the San Jose Fire Department generated from homeless encampments. The San Jose Police Department does not track this data. What are your thoughts?
Well, we should track it on the PD side, certainly. I'm very into data-driven decision-making, but I think the real point here is that this points to how unsustainable the situation is. Over 80% of our homeless population is unsheltered, that the number of people living outside has only grown since we passed Measure A. It's up significantly. We're not getting escape velocity. We are actually falling behind with the current strategy. And what I learned in business is when your approach is not driving you towards your solution, your outcome, you have to admit that it's not working and take a different approach, which is why I think our imperative is to get people indoors as quickly as possible. There are many people on the streets today who would accept basic shelter if it was provided to them. We're simply failing to provide it. And I really think that has to be the starting place, is the fastest, cheapest path to getting people indoors into a managed environment as a starting place. And I really, truly believe that the Measure A approach is letting the perfect be the enemy of the good. So, I mean, look, we do need to address affordable housing. I'm out of time. I will.
Okay.
Cindy.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, there's nothing to get in the way of the city of San Jose or Mr. Mahan's ability to lead the city to build more temporary shelter. They should absolutely do that and could have been doing that even faster, and they have the resources to do it. And the county has made $50 million available to support not just the city of San Jose, but cities across the county to do quick build using new technologies and new innovations. So that is that. And what I find troubling is trying to equate Measure A to all the other tools we have in the toolbox. It's a political stunt. It's not a solution. We need to use every single lever that we have available to us and the leadership of every single city, and really importantly, the city of San Jose. And the reason I'm talking about permit times is it impacts the temporary shelters as well.
And any further comments on this one? Looks like not. Okay, so we'll start with Cindy on this one. At what point would you enforce a no camping law?
I think that as soon, here's one thing I think we should be doing right now. As soon as an encampment is cleared, as soon as people are offered permanent or temporary services, that location should not be rehabited by homeless people. And the reason for that is that in this county, we've housed 20,000 people since 2015. We have another 10,000 people to house. And the fact is that people in our community cannot see our work. And I think it's really important that we show our work, one, so people don't lose faith and hope that we can actually do it. But the other is our community deserves to have their creeks back. It deserves, their trails back. It deserves to have its parks back. And the environmental damage that's happening to the creeks is so significant that if we don't start cleaning and clearing, we're going to be in big trouble as we're trying to rebuild Anderson Dam.
Matt?
Thank you. And sorry, my internet cut out for a few seconds. I hope you can hear me okay.
Do you need the question repeated?
No, I think I've got it. I think, yes, the city should scale up more basic shelter. I agree. I have been advocating for that since arriving at the city almost 2 years ago, and am moving forward projects in my own district, including a safe parking site that will be managed by a great operator. But my question is, why Supervisor Chavez, having been at the county for 10 years, representing our city, has gone all in on a very slow and expensive housing first strategy when we have the crisis we have on our streets that has only grown worse. I don't agree with this rosy assessment that, well, we housed 20,000 and we just have 10,000 more to go. The number of people on the streets has almost doubled on your watch. And I think it points to a failed strategy, frankly. I would also say the county, only the county, can help with a more equitable distribution of the solution. We are half of the county's population and have almost 70% of the county's homeless population. And I think San Jose needs help from the rest of the county. And that's something we need our elected representatives at the county level. I mean, why do we not have that master plan that gets commitments from other cities to identify sites for transitional housing and treatment centers? We can't keep concentrating all this in San Jose.
Okay. Any other comments on this one?
Yeah, so first of all, the city of San Jose is responsible for housing its community. That's the city of San Jose's responsibility. And Mr. Mahan, you've been at the city, I think, long enough to run for mayor, so long enough to make some changes in the policies and procedures that you're using now to make housing available more quickly. The county, in partnership with all of the cities, went to the ballot on Measure A because we recognized that all cities had a challenge relative to redevelopment. And that was an opportunity for us to lean in, not to point and say that's your fault versus our fault. And that kind of leadership is what stops people from engaging, because why take a risk if you're going to just get blamed for taking responsibility?
No, my only critique is that I think the strategy is failing, and we need to be able to pivot and acknowledge that and take a different direction. In my short time on the council, I worked to shift Measure E funding away from the $800,000 a door toward the $100,000 a door solution. I advocated for and helped pass removing horizons on building housing in our urban villages. We had these arbitrary barriers. I have advocated for, haven't yet succeeded in removing some of the unnecessary commercial requirements, and secured funding for additional planners to speed up the implementation of our urban village plan. So I've been doing a lot.
I think most of the leadership on the issues that you've raised has been done actually by your colleagues, and much of the work that was done on the interim homes was actually done by Mayor Liccardo before you arrived. That you leaned in to help, I appreciate, but my point is this, that we need many, many strategies. The idea that you would pit one against the other, to me, doesn't demonstrate that you understand the complexity of the problem. It's an and problem, not an or problem. And that's really critical. I'm sorry, Kath, I saw that. I saw your hand. Thank you.
The money's finite.
Yep. I'm sorry, was that, were you had still,
I don't know if I said the money is finite. Am I out of rebuttals?
No,
I don't
know. You have one more left.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not trying to pitch strategies. We have a goal. And unfortunately, the community plan to end homelessness doesn't put this out there as the primary goal, but every door I knock on in this city agrees with me that the goal should be ending street homelessness first and foremost. And I believe that if that is the objective measure of success, then we should be picking the collection of strategies that get us there the fastest and most cost effectively. That's the most humane thing to do. It's going to, in the long run, be the most cost effective thing to do. It's going to benefit the community the most. It's not going to be perfect, but I think I'm out of time. Thank you.
Cindy?
Do I have a rebuttal? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
thank you.
Who went first? I feel like we've gone over our 4.
I know, I'm sorry. I don't, but Pierre Luigi, I'm trusting that you're writing this.
I think it's fine. Go.
Okay, thank you. You know, it is pitting strategies, and you're right, there's a finite amount of resources. And one of the opportunities we have is for the city and the county to look at those resources as one shared pot and pursue strategies that do protect human life. That absolutely. And what we know is that the way that some tiny homes are run and interim housing actually leads to permanent housing. Not all of it, you know, some has been less successful than others, but we have to learn while we're doing. And again, that's been primarily in the realm.
Thank you.
Okay. And we'll go on to the next question. Thank you, candidates. And I will be doing official tally marks for the rebuttals just to make certain. So this question starts for Matt. Matt, can the county fairgrounds play a minor or significant role in the shelter for the homeless?
I think it can play a significant role. I want to be clear that I don't think that we should be planning to crowd 6,000 formerly unhoused people in one site. I see the potential of the fairgrounds and some of the parking lots around it as a site for potential triage and a place where people would come in, get basic services, probably to start more like a sanctioned encampment to me would be that lowest level of support and on-site services that could then help triage people into other placements, including transitional housing that we really need to scale up. I don't think in the long run, though, that the plan should be to build it out as just housing, whether for the homeless or otherwise. I think it is a community asset. I appreciate that. My point has been that it's largely underutilized. There's a lot of equipment space being rented out there. If we actually think homelessness is a crisis, we ought to act like it. And that means looking at public lands where we can move people out of our creeks and parks and neighborhoods and in front of our small businesses into a more managed site with services.
Okay, Cindy?
Yes, thank you. Currently, the fairgrounds has 550 units of affordable housing on it. We have more affordable housing concentrated in that neighborhood than almost any other neighborhood in the entire county. The fairgrounds long-term should be a central park for the city of San Jose. And as to whether or not, what that means is that I would very much like to see our completed negotiations with the earthquakes. We desperately need soccer fields. We're working on a plan right now with San Jose State, with the partially funding of Budwinter Field to be back on the site. And we're under negotiations with Cricket USA to be able to put a cricket field out there. And our Parks Department is looking at how to expand that into parkland. Now, does it mean that it could do something interim in addition to the folks that are, in addition to the 550, we have a small group of people that are being housed there now, perhaps at some point, but that has to be done as part of a bigger plan for that to ultimately become the city's park.
Okay, I think we covered that one. Oh, Matt?
Yeah, I think we, perhaps at some time is the very complacency I'm running against. We don't have time to wait for perhaps at some time. There is a lot of underutilized land sitting there. There's a lot of land, it's 150 acres or so. There's a lot of land being leased to equipment companies, it appears, or trucking companies. It's not being particularly well utilized. And if we really think it's a crisis that is, which I do, which is in my estimation from all of the people I've spoken to on this campaign, impeding our ability to enjoy our parks and our trails and to shop in San Jose, we ought to act like it's a crisis. And I think that means setting up some kind of triage center and really getting people out of our creeks and neighborhoods.
Yeah, just to respond to that, there are many other pieces of land that we have that we've made available for housing, including on VTA land. And we have 200 acres of VTA land that both is being RFQ'd and RFP'd for permanent housing, 35% of it for affordable housing. And all of those policies were done years ago by me in conjunction with my colleagues to make sure that we are using public land. Many of the Measure A projects and many of the temporary housing projects are already on on public land. And it really, to call my actions complacent when I've led the
thank you.
8,000 people is just really inappropriate.
No, I just said that the language was a little complacent of the perhaps at some time. I think we got to move away from the perhaps at some time toward the what are we going to do right now at scale. I think this is a crisis and we need to act like it. What has concerned me, and frankly, what motivated me to run for mayor was knocking on 10,000 doors, hearing a great sense of frustration and urgency and pain in our neighborhoods, and then seeing in government frankly, just a lack of urgency. I see a disconnect right now between the sense of urgency in the community, the frustration level, and the boldness of our plans inside government. That's what I'm trying to change.
And from my work, I've represented the neediest people in our community, and I assure you that all of the work I've done, including saving 2 hospitals, was out of a sense of urgency for the well-being of the people in this community.
Okay, next question, starting with Cindy. Cindy, what is one word you would use to describe the current state of San Jose?
Adrift.
And same question for Matt.
Imperiled.
Imperiled. Okay, SAT people. All right, next question is for Matt. We will start with, do you support recreational RV parking restrictions in residential neighborhoods?
I do. I'm moving forward a safe parking site in my district that was started by Councilmember Jimenez, which I give him credit for, and I've continued to champion it despite opposition because I think we do need places for people to go. I think that's important. But yes, as we bring online places to go, we should be moving RVs and encampments into those places that are safe sites that have on-site services.
Okay, Cindy?
Luigi, could you say it again? You just blanked out for me.
No problem. Do you support recreational vehicle parking restrictions in residential neighborhoods?
Yes.
Okay. Then I guess we'll start with you, Cindy. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being very safe, how safe do you personally feel in the city of San Jose?
Oh, 9.
Okay. And same question. And then if you want to articulate on that, you may as well. It wasn't meant to be a one-word response.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay. And same question for Matt.
I mean, I think it varies a lot by time of day, part of which neighborhood and area, but I'd put it more like a 6.
Okay. All right. And then I think this one starts with Matt. San Jose State wants to build 1,000 new housing units downtown. However, the CEQA review alone will not be finished until 2024. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think you're pointing to one of the key barriers to building housing. Obviously, there's the state level regulation, and then there's how we implement it locally. I have been a strong proponent of CEQA reform. Last time I checked, well over 50% of the lawsuits brought under CEQA had nothing to do with the environment. I think it has been misused by property owners who want to stop any kind of development, labor unions who have used it for leverage, and other actors who have misused the law. And so I will be an advocate as mayor for CEQA reform at the state level. I also think locally, there's more we can do to streamline our implementation of it. I think that in key growth areas where we anticipate a lot of potential investment, such as downtown, we should be doing more work to pre-clear the CEQA review process. So whether that's the historical review component of it and building out a better inventory, I think there are a lot of opportunities to make that more turnkey so that we're not treating each review process as a kind of bespoke process.
Cindy?
Yeah, I'm really excited about San Jose State doing that. I think, we've been waiting for them for me to have them grow a little more off campus, I think is just the right direction. Long ago, when we did have redevelopment, we did clear bigger areas for higher development. And I think we should be doing that again. Frankly, I also think that in certain areas, CEQA isn't necessary, and especially in downtowns, with the exception of the protection of historic assets. And so I would really like to see, instead of everybody trying to take such a big swing at CEQA, is to make CEQA more, to take pieces of it and change it, because I think for downtowns all over the state, it would be a huge boon to just really make it focus on historic needs. Beyond that, I don't think there's much you should have CEQA for in downtowns.
Okay, I think we close that one out. Okay, this one starts with Cindy. SB 9, as you know, allows a house in Willow Glen to be turned into 4 units without any public process. And for most of Willow Glen, this would not require a driveway or a garage. The city council will soon consider allowing even more units to be added on that same single family house lot under SB 9. What is your view?
I would oppose that. And I think, all you have to do is look at parts of San Jose, particularly on the east side, where people are parking streets away from where they live because of the intensification of the land use. And so I would oppose that.
Okay, thank you. Matt?
I also oppose. I've been endorsed by Families and Homes. I was the first council member to do a press conference on the issue. I firmly believe that San Jose has to do its part in building the housing that we need for our growing population. But I think we should have local control over how we do it. And I think that the state's role should be to help set goals and give us the tools we need to build housing, but not dictate exactly where we do it with these blanket upzoning policies that treat every city the same way. So I think our future needs to be smart growth, building up in places like downtown and near high frequency transit. Otherwise, we're going to have total traffic gridlock, worse air, and actually even more displacement of people.
Okay. I think we're closed out on that one. So Matt, you're the start of this next question. Will you be supportive of raising taxes in the November 2024 election cycle?
My inclination is not to be raising taxes. I think we're heading into a recession. We pay some of the highest taxes in the country, and I think it's time for us to really focus on being more efficient, more innovative, and doing more with less.
Okay, Cindy.
Yeah, thank you. I'm not inclined to do that. And one of the things that I think we're going to have to do is figure out how to, especially city by city, how to live within our means and doing it in a more rigorous way. So some of the things I'd really like to do is do a forensic audit of the city, get departments to do zero-based budgeting, because I think that we have to make sure that we're not just growing incrementally, but that we're aligning the budget with the outcomes we want and really being able to quantify the investments we're making for each of those outcomes. You may recall, perhaps when you were first on the council, that we actually had a budget book that really did look at targets more clearly and really focused on results relative to the investment. And I'd like to get back to doing that again.
Okay. And any comments on that one? I don't think so. Cindy, next question is for you. Should you win, do you think your opponent could help you help the city?
Oh, absolutely. I think that one of the opportunities that a mayor has is to bring the best out and the talents out of the people that you serve with. And, you know, we've got really dynamic people. And as many of you know, I have 9 of the 10 council members supporting me. And you know, they have different lenses. Some have expertise in small business, some very interested in the environment, some very interested in development. And I think part of the job of a mayor is making sure you bring out people's talents and yet help people focus on the main things as a team you need to focus on. For us, I think it would be public safety, homelessness, affordable housing, and getting San Jose cleaned up again.
Okay, Matt?
Yes, I would absolutely be able to work with and I'm sure find a tremendous amount of value in partnering with Supervisor Chavez. While we're talking about endorsements, I'm proud to have the endorsement of the Mercury News and 4 of the 5 living mayors. And more importantly than anything for me, 40,000 residents across the city who have signed up on our website, which is mahanforsanjose.com. And I agree that the mayor's role in many ways is to shine a spotlight on our biggest challenges, lift up better solutions, and bring people together around those solutions. But I also, in addition to collaboration and consensus building, will push us to do things in new ways, because I think we need more fundamental change than what we're doing right now.
Okay, now we'll move on to the next question. We're starting with Matt. Matt, should you prevail, you will be back on the ballot in early March 2024. Given the tight time frame for re-election, what do you hope to accomplish in 1 year?
Yeah, thanks for the question. I really want to do a couple of things. Number one, I have laid out and I've written a number of memos articulating in detail how I would do a more accountable budget, in which, and that's one of the few kind of extra powers the mayor has, is initiating the budget process. So setting goals, measuring performance, regular check-ins, tying pay raises to performance. I would like to get that implemented through the first budget, or at least pieces of it, building blocks. I don't think that change is going to happen overnight. Number two, I think we can do a lot to clean up the city. The city looks dirty. We are not addressing everything from graffiti to illegal dumping fast enough. And I want to make an emphasis on restoring our civic pride as a city. And then third, where I think we can move faster, quickly, is on those other core services of things like permitting and code enforcement, where we just haven't had the staff capacity and retention to deliver the quality of customer service that we should. And so really getting down to basics and delivering those basic services more effectively is what I'll be focused on.
Okay, Cindy?
Cleaning up the city. I think of the number one thing that I'm hearing is that the people don't feel, when they don't feel safe, it's in part because of how unclean the city is. And the second thing is with a real emphasis on recruitment and retention for our public safety officers. I want to cut our response times in half as quickly as we can. So that will be a big focus. And then the other thing is that I do think that we've really got to focus on planning, building, and code enforcement. It really is the nerve center of the city. It determines how much housing we get built, how many new businesses can start, whether or not a business that we have can grow. And if we want to be focused on all the other things we want to do, we're going to have to make sure that we're very, very focused on keeping our tax base healthy and making sure that we're attracting and retaining incredible businesses, large and small, here in our community.
And any comments on that one? Nope. Okay, we'll go then back to city. This will be a yes or no question. How will you vote on Prop 1, constitutional right to abortion?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Okay, the next question is for Matt. In the city of Los Angeles, Councilmember Martinez recently resigned after a racist recording was revealed between her and her council members, De Leon and Cedillo, and an interest group regarding redistricting. The now famous recording contained various racist comments about multiple groups. Here's a yes or no question. Should De Leon and Cedillo resign?
Yes.
And same question for Cindy.
Yes.
And then starting with City, as evidenced in Los Angeles, interest groups play a significant role in deciding where to draw city council district boundaries, including San Jose, where the last two redistricting processes proposed dividing the Willow Glen neighborhood, which is a genuine, bona fide community of interest. Here's the question. If elected, would you pledge to appoint someone from the Willow Glen Neighborhood Association board to the next redistricting commission so we have a voice for neighborhood integrity?
Yes. I mean, I guess let me, and Pierre Luigi, was this a yes or no?
No, this is at length.
Okay. So thank you. I think that what we would have to figure out is a better process by which we do redistricting. And what I mean by that is that I felt like there were a lot of meetings that happened, and then all of a sudden the neighborhoods got alerted, and then people started to say, oh my gosh, where's my person? And so part of it is I think we need to do different kinds of outreach so we're attracting more people to the process, and perhaps not even leaving it up to one board, but getting feedback from committees across the city, because it's just such an important discussion. And, you know, and it wasn't just Willow Glen, but many, many other communities felt like they got, you know, kind of chipped away at. And so I think we need to rethink the process pretty dramatically.
Okay, and then same question for Matt.
Yes, I worked with council members Davis and Foley to do our best to mitigate the impact of what was proposed in Willow Glen. If you watch the tape, we worked very hard together to try to roll back proposed changes that would have more significantly impacted the sort of the community of interest, as you called it, that is Willow Glen. I was very disappointed by the redistricting process. I felt that an outside interest group pushed a preferred map with political goals in mind, both at the city and county level. We were a little more successful at the city level at coming up with changes that were fairly common sense, despite my district being significantly changed. But I felt like how it played out at the county was concerning, frankly.
Okay, any other comments on this one? Nope. Starting with Matt, what is your viewpoint on cities declaring themselves as sanctuary city regarding immigration? Should local government cooperate with federal law enforcement?
So let me take both pieces to your question, because on the broader notion of sanctuary city, I do not in any way want to see our local law enforcement become an extension of immigration control. We do not want fear of deportation to prevent people from reporting crime or otherwise participating in our city. I don't want to see us impose policies that are going to take otherwise law-abiding folks paying taxes, raising their kids, and have them live in total fear and unable to participate in our society. I think we're all worse off if that happens. On the other hand, I've been one of the few local electeds who has said very clearly, going back to my run for city council, that when you have someone who has committed serious crime and is undocumented, I think it is very appropriate for our local law enforcement agencies to work with federal authorities. And I think that some of the barriers that we have put up locally are inappropriate. And I see my time is up.
Okay, Cindy.
Thank you. I think it's very, very important that the local police department have the opportunity to build enough trust in the community that everybody will call 911, that people will not be afraid to be witnesses in cases, and that people will get involved in their neighborhoods. So I do support the current approach of the San Jose Police Department in terms of working with its community. I also want to make sure that people know that we at the county follow federal law, and and I support making sure that we have the use of judicial warrants. Now, I will also make it clear that the sheriff in our county has the ability to collaborate with anybody that she deems is appropriate when she deems there's a public safety issue, period. And that's really important, I think, for people to know. Oh, thanks, Kathleen, sorry.
And was there any other comment on that topic, or I think we're closing that out? I don't see any hands. This one is for Cindy. Do you have any thoughts or plans for animal care services, essentially a basic city service that's had some issues in providing affordable spay neuter or having veterinarians available?
Yeah, I've actually gotten a lot of feedback on this at the city level. And one thing that I think that would be a great opportunity for both the city and the county is to share some programs that will bring down the cost for people who are, I forgot what you call them, but when they catch cats to get spayed and neutered, those rescue teams, so that we can do this in a much more cost-effective way. I know it's been difficult for both the city and the county to make sure that we've hired enough veterinarians that are available to work. And it's limited the number of animals that people can bring in. And during COVID, when people stopped doing that spade and neutering for a while, it really grew the animal populations pretty dramatically. So one of the things that I'd really like us to do, like I said, is I think collaborating between our services so we can get more pets spayed and neutered, and also to do vouchers again, so that those people who are doing rescuing have the ability to do that in a more assertive manner. I mean, with more people.
Matt.
Yeah, I think it would be great to have more collaboration with the county and share costs there. I will continue to lead on this issue because we have a real challenge right now with stray cats and kittens in particular. When this issue was brought to my attention, I actually assigned someone on my team to coordinate with different community members around the city who, out of their own volunteer time and dollars out of their own pocket, do tremendous work to trap cats and make sure that that they are spayed. And so we, our office put in a special.
Matt froze.
Matt froze.
Did I freeze?
Oh yeah, go on.
Yeah, you froze.
I'm sorry, my internet seems to be a little unstable right now. But I was just saying, I worked with a number of community leaders through my office, and Councilmember Carrasco also, that we've done advocacy to really highlight this issue and draw more attention and bring more funding through the budget process to try to address the real challenge we have in our animal shelter right now.
And now it'd be a great time to rebuttal and talk about how you've adopted so many animals from the shelter. Is that anyone on that one? No, okay.
I have 2 little kids. It's enough for now.
Okay, Matt.
Yeah.
The amount of shoplifting that seems to be go on, whether it's accurate or magnified by news media or social media, about people just going into drugstores and basically just shoplifting like we never saw before. Many people will say that's Prop 47's leniency. Do you believe that? Oh, and if so, do you believe it needs to be reformed?
Yeah, so I think on the one hand, the change that was made around ensuring that theft under $950 is a misdemeanor no matter how many times it's committed is bad policy. I think it should be cumulative. I think it should look at patterns of behavior. And so I do think it should be changed. My understanding is that will require a statewide ballot initiative to change, but I would support a reasonable ballot measure to change it. My concern locally, and that I hear from our police officers frequently, is the level of repeat arrests that are being made because our county jail and our county policy seems to be to depopulate the jail. And so we're seeing very high rates of release and then re-offense, and very high rates of failure to appear for a court. And so I think that we could be doing more to hold people accountable locally, and that really falls over at the county side. Our officers are very frustrated. The data, well, if we rebut, I will share the data.
Okay, Cindy?
Yes, thank you. So, you know, I want to make an observation about the San Jose's arrest rates, that in around 2010, 2012, after we had the Measure B battle, we went from 28,000 arrests a year to 17,000 arrests a year. And that was actually pre-Prop 47. And I say that because I think it's really important to better understand what changes need to be made in order to affect, you know, a safer community. When Prop 47 went through, essentially it made some felonies a misdemeanor, but a misdemeanor can still have jail time. And so what I think needs to happen is, I think the district attorney, along with the city of San Jose's police department, needs to strategize about what crimes they most want to address. And I think the biggest challenge is we don't have enough officers, period, to address the serious crimes, let alone these other crimes that are serious but aren't, you know, don't cause great bodily harm.
So I think it's about, I would like to jump in here. I think it's about more than hiring more police officers. We certainly need to hire more officers. And I will make hiring more officers a priority in my budget. And we should note that the primary reason we have so many fewer officers is that past councils, which my opponent sat on, ran up huge unfunded liabilities to the tune of over $4 billion, which consumes 15% of our general fund every year. For that amount of money, we could hire literally 1,000 additional officers, nearly doubling the size of our department. But I also, go ahead. Sorry, Kathy, I just saw your hand. Is the hand done, or is the hand 5 seconds?
You can have 5 seconds on that.
That's okay. I'll wait for the rebuttal.
Cindy?
Yeah, thanks, Matt. I'll help you out there by jumping in and saying, you know, I'm not saying it's one thing or another, but we do need more officers. They do have the ability now to take multiple cases and take them to the district attorney's office. And the reason I'm suggesting there needs to be some collaboration is that I think we need to be able to focus on what resources we want to attach to what specific actions. And I think that is where we have a challenge, because not having enough officers means that we have officers.
Okay, thank
very
you.
high. Oh, sorry.
Yep. And then you still have a rebuttal if you want to go, Matt.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. So, you know, I wrote an op-ed in the Merc and have written co-authored memos with Mayor Liccardo and Councilmember Carrasco, highlighting this sort of revolving door, or what some people call catch and release, whatever term you want to use. The data is very stark. And what we've uncovered by pushing on this is that the process at pretrial services and the affidavit that's written is totally insufficient for helping the magistrate understand the history of these individual repeat offenders. So I am leading the charge on reforming that system so that there's actual accountability and intervention to keep our community safe.
Cindy?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to learning more about what Mr. Mahan's referring to there. But, you know, one thing I will say about pretrial services is that we added an additional tool, in particular because we had seen an increase in domestic violence. And this was actually pre-COVID. And that tool is intended to make sure that anybody who is at risk of hurting another person is in custody. And this is one of the issues that we have to think kind of long and hard about relative to how because I do think we want to make sure we're keeping dangerous people in custody and protecting the public. I saw you, Kathleen. Thank you.
Next question for Cindy. You both want to build thousands upon thousands of new housing units. If successful, though, will this diminish the quality of life for existing residents?
I think that we can build great, beautiful projects that build out and improve neighborhoods. I think that one of the opportunities that we have, as I spoke a little bit earlier about this, is that VTA has 200 acres across the county along transit hubs where we can build densely, both housing and jobs, and a third of that housing be dedicated to affordable housing, which means it'll be more integrated in these neighborhoods. And I think that will allow us to be able to both maintain and improve quality of life, make sure there are opportunities for starter homes in our community, make sure that we have access to transportation, that we're really aligning all of our goals. If we're disciplined about this, I think it will actually enhance San Jose, especially if we choose the right locations to build.
Okay, Matt?
The reason that I'm so big on pushing smart growth and making the case for it is that I have lived and worked in great cities that have had denser, walkable, mixed use, more transit-oriented environments. And I think unlike the SB9 model, which just upzones everywhere and we see what happens, concentrating that development in certain corridors and in places like downtown can actually give us a greater quality of life. You could have a safer downtown with more restaurants, more nightlife, more cultural events. It would be more a walkable environment that particularly young people would want to live in. That could be an economic competitive advantage for us to attract young talent to a more urban and mixed use environment. So I really believe we can have it all. We can have safe, family-friendly, quieter neighborhoods that will continue to be more car-centric, frankly, and we can have denser, more mixed-use communities that are more walkable and transit-centric, and we should have both, but we need very different zones, and they need different kinds of infrastructure and services.
Okay, anything else on that one? No? And this question's for Matt. I can't think of any campaign that there's not negative mailers, and you both have been subject to those. And this is a point in time for you to correct the record or clarify anything you'd like to tell us tonight.
Well, yeah, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. I've been very disappointed that my opponent's strategy appears to be to try to convince people that we have different views on preventing gun violence and choice, matters of reproductive freedom. And the reality is that we're of the same party. We have the same policy positions, or if there are any differences, I haven't heard them yet. There's shades of difference. And I think it's been incredibly misleading and disingenuous to spend millions of dollars trying to convince people that I have positions that I don't hold. And so that has been incredibly frustrating, but we're doing our best to stay focused on our message and set the record straight as much as we can, despite being significantly outspent by the special interest money behind my opponent.
Okay, Cindy?
I would just say that part of the problem is just repeating all of the untruths is not something that I want to spend a lot of time on. I will make this observation, and that is that I worry that in order to win a race, and I would say this is something Mr. Mahan has done relative to Measure A and to other accomplishments that I've had, that when we tear down both government or policies that we know are good for the community long term, that every campaign really diminishes people's faith and confidence in each other and in our government, because it is our government. And so I worry about that. I worry about that quite a lot. And I try very hard as a candidate to focus on my differences with my opponent instead of really, using tools that
Thank you.
negatively impact our entire community.
So I just feel the need to jump in on that. I am not in any way trying to tear down government. If anything, my experience has been knocking on over 10,000 doors, having thousands and thousands of conversations with residents. I hear incredible frustration. I hear a greater sense of urgency than I see in government. People are asking, what are we going to do differently? Because what we're doing isn't working. And I'm trying to diagnose what I see us doing that isn't scaling, that isn't efficient, that is too slow, that has too many unintended consequences and offer alternatives. I don't have all the answers, but I think we need to be able to admit when what we're doing isn't getting us the outcomes that we need.
Yeah, thanks. As a follow-up to that, I would use the example of, and I do think this is a gimmick, of how, of tying people's pay raises to their performance, not because I don't think people should be performance-based, particularly when they're department heads and elected officials. That really is not my issue. My issue is that people don't do this work, especially the talented people that I've seen who both run for office, who've been in public service, because of their pay. That's not what motivates people.
Matt?
That's what I consider a gimmick.
That's fine if you think it's a gimmick. I don't. Many of our department heads make on the order of $250,000, $300,000 a year. Elected officials are managing huge budgets and have huge responsibility. I think we need a better feedback loop. I think we need to make the outcomes real for all of us and have that focusing function. The truth is, in the public sector, the revenue flows the same no matter how much we push ourselves to deliver results or to innovate. And I think that only by setting goals, measuring performance, and being accountable for better outcomes and tying that back to our pay raise, are you going to see more innovation and a faster pace of change in government.
Then you don't know what motivates people in public service. And I'll just give an example. I think quality results matter. I really do. I think being able to respond to 911 calls at the national level at a minimum matters. I think that we, under my leadership, test rape kits faster than any place in the country matters. I think saving those hospitals matters. Those are results that have meaning for people in our community, real results. And holding people accountable and being public about it and setting goals, absolutely. But I think we have to understand what motivates people to serve others.
Okay. Just a couple fun questions here to lighten your night before you go to your next event. Cindy, what's your favorite park in Willow Glen?
In Willow Glen? My favorite park is actually probably Branham. And only because I saw pickleball there, to be honest with you. I like pickleball.
Graham Hall.
Thank you.
And then Matt?
Yeah, I was going to say Branham, or Brannell, but what is it called?
Bram Hall.
Bram Hall.
Well,
right?
Everyone calls it Willow Street Park, but it's officially named after a former city employee that the last thing, if he was a parks director, I can't remember.
Let me give you a different one. I recently took a walk over the trellis and the trail. And I think that's awesome. It needs to continue to be extended.
And that will be completed soon. And then Matt, your favorite restaurant in Willow Glen?
Oh gosh, I really like the table.
Cindy, your favorite restaurant?
I like Arpas. I like and you know what? Actually, Sienna. I mean, I love Sienna.
Okay. Well, you're right there. Okay, great. All right, so you made it. We're going to get you out early because I know you really want to go to that other event, even though we had you till 8:15. So we'll now go to closing statements. 1 minute. First of all, thanks so much. You and your families are working so much to get you to this point. Best wishes to both of you. And so Cindy, you have a 60-second close and followed by Matt.
Yeah, thank you. So first, let me just say thank you all very much for joining us tonight. It just shows how very much you love and care for San Jose and for your activism as leaders in your neighborhood association. I think that's just, it's so laudable and so important for the health and vitality of our community. I just want to just close with saying this. I have always represented really high need communities, and that has really pushed me to do the kind of work that I think is so important for our community. I am all about results. I am all about pushing the envelope. I am all about making San Jose a city that people are proud of, that shines. The reason I'm so proud to have 9 of the 10 council members supporting me is that they are to the left of me and they are to the right of me, but what they're ready to do is they are ready to move. They are ready for change, and they're ready to be lifted up and supported in a way that allows them to lift up and support every single council district. I look forward to working with all of you. I look forward to making a San Jose that we all are proud of. So thank you very, very much.
Okay, and Matt.
Thank you. Well, I really appreciate the opportunity and how civically engaged you all are. You're a very important institution in the community, and I look forward to working with you in whatever capacity. If you think that we're heading in the right direction as a city, then by all means, I'm guessing Supervisor Chavez will be your choice tonight. If you think it's time for change, I really hope you'll go to mahanforsanjose.com and look at the policy plans I've laid out. I personally believe we're heading in the wrong direction. I don't think my opponent defended her record so much as run away from it tonight. And I really want to see us take new approaches, be radically more focused and efficient and accountable for results. I think we need a very different approach on issues of homelessness and crime in particular. And that's what I'm running for, is to change the way we are operating in local government and the policies we're pursuing, particularly around homelessness and crime, to make our city a better, safer, cleaner, more affordable place for everyone. So would love to have you all get involved. Mahanforsanjose.com. Thank you again for the opportunity. Really appreciate it.
And Pierluigi, next time we might need to have rebuttals on the ending statements.
I've thought about doing that just now, but you know.
Yeah, that's so inappropriate. Yes. Thank you.
Fair enough. All right. Well, thank you both for participating. Good luck in the election. And
thank you.
Thanks everyone for participating. Thank you to the WGNA board, and good luck. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, candidates.
Thanks so much.
Well, bye-bye.
Bye.